That's all that ever was found was this film.
Uh-huh.
So it's these kids playing and asking people questions and all this stuff. And forget that. We're not into the Blair Witch Project tonight.
Well, we've got, what do they call the Blair Witch
Project? I think.
Project.
Yes.
What do you think of this Blair Bush Project?
Blair Bush Project. Well, they have.
That's Blair again.
They've got a mindset that's pretty locked in, and it's.
I was surprised at Blair, I must say.
Well, he's
I
been.
thought he was a liberal.
He's very taking a very strong position. Of course, George Bush, you have to say that the guy has been totally a bulldog as far as his focus on wanting war, or at least wanting to destroy terrorism and every bad guy on the planet.
Yeah.
And he does. Well, maybe I'm exaggerating, but he's been extremely focused.
And then he's got plenty of strong help beside him with his vice president and Ashcroft.
It's a sad thing because I don't think that they quite realize at all, to me, what they're doing to the country, this country, or what they realize what's going on in this country anyways, and in the state that we're in with the year 2002 and global warming and the various issues of the United States. To me, are, I don't know, not all that. I don't think we're all that stable. I think it's we're kind of just economically and ecologically and population-wide, I think kind of a mess. That's my own opinion.
There's something brand new about treating treaties lightly.
Oh yeah,
because we always used to think this was Americans would never break a treaty or lie, Of course, Clinton lied about a sexual,
Clinton and
personal thing.
See, Clinton is.
But you can't compare that with major deception. We'll do this business of going it alone. No, we'll go it alone. If the UN doesn't come with us, we'll do it anyway. Now that's new, I think, in American foreign policy.
This blindness about it all. This is really kind of like a illusion that this is really going to solve any problems. That this is really going to eliminate all these sick acts against the United States. Because these I don't know. It's a war it's not against the nation. It's not even against a human being. It's against an ism.
Yeah.
How are you ever going to win that war?
Yeah.
And who defines it? And then you get all these weird snipers and killers and sick fools, and they're all part of the. I don't know. They're all part of our country.
Well, they don't seem to understand cause and effect.
There you go.
They don't see. You bash somebody and he wants to bash you back. You're horribly shocked.
Well, I think we've seen what can be seen as success with that technique over the years too, don't you think?
At times.
We'll look at how do we deal with evil during World War II? Guess what? Hitler lost and he isn't around, and Germany has flourished, and France was liberated, and there's numerous examples of sometimes of people having to do through war, through fighting, what appears to be, seems to have been a necessary response, and it seems to have reaped some benefit.
Yeah, there appears usually such things are short-lived benefits. Like obviously that war helped lead to the nuclear arming of the world. It's in a sense, it's one of those situations where what seems to be good is adding up in the long run to be the opposite. In other words, everybody decided to get more prepared in the future.
I think the idea of not going that route, the so-called pacifist route, seems highly suspect in terms of I don't know, practicality, or what am I? It's
effectiveness.
Yeah, it's what are we asking for? Are we all to simply surrender to a foreign authority who could come in and take over this nation because we would be unwilling to lift a finger or die or kill? That is seems like the major argument, and it seems like you're suggesting that this route, which strikes me as rather, I suppose, like a Christian, as of what maybe in the New Testament's that fellow there who a lot of people worship recommended. You're kind of advocating that kind of mentality, right? Or think that that's a better solution, which is like turn the other cheek?
My thrust is primarily toward the creation of world community and world law. Disarmament under world law. One could say, what would have happened if Hitler had conquered the world? Well, the United States. How would he have maintained law and order in the United States? How many German, this is assuming that every German was a Nazi, which is debatable, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, frankly, I think it was only a minority of Germans that were Nazis. It was a big enough minority, of course, to give it power. But what if every one of them was spread out to try to keep peace and their control?
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of them use the Gandhi method, saying, "Oh, they come out with a new law, we'll just ignore it. That's all." And so some get put in prison, some get executed, and some pay a high price. But the public opinion is against them, against the conquerors.
Mm-hmm.
There comes a point where they're absolutely helpless. Then they would try to, or obviously would try to find people who are sympathetic to them, who are American citizens, to help do it, be their puppets. But in the overall, my belief is that the amount of destruction that would take place using the Gandhi method, which is nonviolent resistance. We won't do what you say, that hurts. We'll do anything you want that helps. But once it hurts someone, no. And then the people in between who don't know which side they're on, they can see, hey, wait a minute now. These people aren't hurting anybody, and yet they are saying no to this order or whatever it is. And the same thing happened on the King. The King, the civil rights movement, half the North was for segregation, as well as the Southerners. And King, just by the methods that he used, treating people like human beings, even the people that they disagreed with, swung public opinion in his favor. And I would say the same thing. Gandhi did the same thing. The British Raj was not nonviolent. The British Raj was pretty much in there with their military and imprisonments and so forth. It wasn't that England was such a gentle country, but because it took years for Gandhi's method. Can you imagine what would have happened if Gandhi had been in control of arms to get our freedom from India, or if the Black Panthers had been the leaders in a fight to get rid of segregation? It would have been a bloodbath. So there are sacrifices, there are costs, but nowhere near the costs of the huge weaponry and the mass killings of innocents. And it's usually in the case of a nonviolent resistance, the person, the intruder, the oppressor, his oppression is usually aimed at the forces that could resist him. That's where his first focus is. And then on people who speak against what he's saying or support, and he might support opposition. But when there's no resistance in terms of armaments of forces, where is his power? In other words, the Gandhi method required tremendous courage on the part of the people who resisted, right? Mm-hmm. King's followers, some were killed, and many were put in prison, and yet, what could the oppressor is a human being too, and some of his allies are human, maybe more human than the oppressor. Even I think a Bush could be, and even a Hussein. Can you imagine what would happen if Bush said, hey, wait a minute now, what we're going to do? Hussein, we're going to, on such and such a date, we're going to pull all our troops out of Iraq and out of the neighboring country, except those who want to volunteer to work with us and with you to re-establishing your infrastructure, rebuilding your roads, and so forth. And no strings attached, we are now offering to help you. What would Hussein say to that? You might say you're crazy, or you're lying, or you're a trickster. But if it was made clear that that was the intent, and if his people heard that he was saying no to such an offer, he would be forced to say, that would make a big change. Well, let's go.
That's great. I think that's a good idea. Let's send a letter off to George Bush.
Yeah.